Good morning and a very warm welcome to all the investors and analysts who are joining us for the call today. We have the management of Shriram City Union Finance with us today, represented by Mr. Y.S. Chakravarti, Managing Director and CEO, and Mr. R. Chandrasekhar, Executive Director and CFO. We will open the call with an opening remarks from Mr. Chakravarti, post which we will open this call for Q&A. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good morning and welcome to all the investors and analyst friends who have logged in today to the earnings call of Shriram City Union Finance Limited for the first quarter of the financial year 2021. While it would be obviously be difficult to predict when life will return to the pre-COVID stage, we are at Shriram City trying our best to return to business as usual mode, and accordingly, about 95% of our branches are operational, and we also some traction in disbursements in the month of June. Between May and June, we have disbursed almost 1.18 lakh two-wheelers, and hopefully we'll be able to sustain the momentum and expand our disbursement levels as we head into the crucial festival season. However, we will ensure that such expansion is calibrated and rolled out only after we have met with our customers, especially MSME borrowers, and assess their cash flow situations to the best of our ability. In other words, we will not be unduly aggressive in lending in the immediate term, but the approach will be very calibrated and cautious. To look back at the quarter, despite lower disbursement levels, the AUM grew by relatively low rates of about 6.3% on year and 2.2% sequentially. However, the two-wheeler loan book grew at 10% annually. There have been other positive developments in the quarter. For instance, we were able to reduce our OPEX by 18% annually and 20% sequentially, leading to an operating profit rise of 10.2% quarter on quarter and to a significantly lower cost-to-income ratio of 35%. Our collection efficiency improved by the month. By the month on month, say 30% in April, to 52% in May, and 71% in June. It's also I feel that the collection efficiency can also be considered as the true indicator of the health of the book and the overall business instead of the moratorium numbers. In the sense, as you see the collections improving, that means people who were initially affected or uncertain about what is happening in the business or lower volumes in business are slowly coming back into the business. So, as I said, from 30 to 52 to 71, movement from April to June. Impairment levels were maintained at Q4 levels, and gross stage 3 numbers continue to drop. We provided for an additional 180 crores of COVID-related provisioning in the quarter, and our aggregate provisioning and discount between Q4 FY20 and Q1 FY21 is now 606 crores. We have largely maintained our yields and NIMs, and there was a marginal improvement in cost of funds. During the quarter, we have raised 1,058 crores from banks and retail fixed deposits. Our fixed deposits, in fact, show the highest ever gross mobilization in the month of June. We had liquidity reservoir of 1,732 crores, which we are comfortable with. Our subsidiary, Shriram Housing Finance Limited, turned in another decent performance despite disbursements having been affected due to COVID. The housing AUM grew 23% year on year, and they too are seeing a gradual return to some sort of normalcy, with 60% of average monthly business volume seen in the month of June. They continued on the path of improving asset quality and registered GNPAs of 2.3%, their best performance in 5 years. Shriram Housing's cost of funds too improved significantly to 9.3%. They have enough reserve liquidity for operations until December 2020. So the other point I would like to mention is now that the emergency credit guarantee scheme is opened up for individuals also, where majority of our customers are, since majority of our customers are individuals, we are also exploring the option of funding our customers under this route, which probably we will start out from the third week of August. One more point I would like to mention is that if you remember, I think for the last call I mentioned that we have obtained a corporate agency license from IRDA for cross-sell of products to our customers. And I am glad to inform that we have received close to 5 crores of fee income in the first quarter from the cross-sell of these products, of some of the insurance products. So with this, the floor is open for questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, participants may press star followed by 1 on your touchtone phone now. We have a first question from the line of Rajiv Agarwal from Doordarshi Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question. The first question, Mr. Chakravarti, you mentioned that now personal loans are eligible for something. I did not hear that sentence, and you will start from third week of August. Can you explain what you were talking about?
No, I did not say personal loans. I said business loans, which were given to individuals now, are eligible for funding under Emergency Credit Guarantee Scheme.
Okay.
Earlier, it was not available. Now that they have amended the provision and said even individual business owners are eligible for funding under the Emergency Credit Guarantee Scheme. That's what I mentioned, not the personal loan.
Got it. And to what extent will that, so in our SME book, which is our biggest book, that could have a significant beneficial impact, or can you just quantify what sort of impact that could have for us?
See, we are not going to do this across the board and offer it across the board. The lending will be very, I would say, depends on the customer's cash flows, current cash flows, and his payment pattern earlier. So I'm not looking at a very large sum of disbursement in this because, again, two things is, one is the yield under this scheme is also lower. So, but I would like to do this, extend funding under the scheme to make some of our good customers because if they need cash flow, I think it's time that we stand by them. So probably it won't be, the scheme is available up to October, so we will be, say in a 2 months, probably we are looking at 300 to 400 crores of disbursement at best.
Right. But I'm hoping that this will have a beneficial impact on your non-performing portion of the book in SME space. Is that a fair way of looking at it?
No. Why would I mean, if a customer is NPA, obviously I'm not going to fund under this ECGC scheme.
Right. Got it. Okay. The second question is, your personal loans have come down, and is that one of the reasons why your the net non-performing assets continue to be high in the personal loans?
Yeah, we have actually slowed down personal loans, of course, not only this quarter, even the last quarter also. So which we will be starting off in another week's time. We are initiating the business again. Earlier, we were focusing on just the secured because, we were conserving liquidity and we focused on only secured business. Now that the liquid looks like there's slight, we see that we see some easing on the liquidity side. So we will start off personal loans. probably from third week.
Okay. And you are starting to see sort of cash flow to your loan book for your various customers?
Sorry, I didn't get you there. Sorry?
Yeah, I was saying, now do you see the cash flows reviving for most of your customers across various sections of the AUM that you have? Like, can you just give a flavor of what you are seeing?
Yeah, because, some of the, yes, see, even, I think the proof of the pudding is in eating, right? So when you look at the gradual improvement in the collection percentages, I feel that see, even in June we were at 71, and July we have almost reached close to 80% plus. So I think that's a good indicator that the cash flows is coming back. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And this restructuring scheme that RBI has announced, any initial take of yours on what exactly are you planning to do with that?
See, I am actually, honestly, I mentioned this earlier also in my our analyst call also. I would rather give time for my customer to pay rather than restructuring the whole thing and create an optical well-being. So I mean, but again, early days that they have to come out with the guidelines. We will see. But I'm personally, my set of customers, I would rather give them time to pay rather than restructuring the whole thing. I mean, personally, that's my view. But we will see. Let's see what RBI comes up with.
Got it. And this COVID provisions we have been taking over the last few quarters, do we think this will continue, or what is your assessment for the next few quarters as you look forward?
See, probably, no, I can tell you only post. See, we are all waiting with crossed fingers on what is going to happen post the moratorium, right? So, very uncertain to comment anything now, but let me put it this way: when a couple of my customers, when I talk to them, in fact more than a couple of customers, they are worried that with the rate of doubling that is happening in some of the territories. So though their cash flows are coming back to normal, some of the customers are saying they would like to hold on to some of the cash just in case again lockdowns happen. So we would definitely look at this even the next quarter also. We will create some provision. We will be looking at very conservatively on this side. So yes, we will create provision next quarter also. Till we get a clear-cut clarity on the cash flows of the customers, particularly on the SME side.
Sure. Great. Thanks a lot for taking my question.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Chirag Sureka from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good morning. This is Vivek here. It's very heartening to see the pickup in collection efficiency. But given that the fact that this always is on-off, lockdown is going on, and the sentiment is fragile, I have two questions and one clarification which I wanted. The first question is, how would you see your liquidity buffers going for the next few months, given the fact that the economic sentiment still seems fragile? Two, the strong pickup in collection efficiency is indeed a positive surprise. In terms of the customers, what is it that has allowed them to pick up their businesses really fast? And the third, the last clarification which I wanted to is that you have enough liquidity to pay debt till December of this year, right? So those are the 3 points. Thank you very much.
On the collections front, I think what has helped the SCUF is basically because we are a small ticket business loan company, number one. Number two, most of my customers are from trading and a little bit from service industries. Manufacturing, I have less than 7-8% exposure. So I think it's basically because the movement moment the complete lockdown was lifted, most of my customers were back in business, and they were seeing some kind of cash flows in the businesses. I think the biggest, the positive factor was that the kind of customer segment that we were funding, which has helped us in this crucial time. Liquidity, as I mentioned, we have about 700 to 1,700 crores of cash and banks, balances with us. The December 2020, I mentioned, is for Shriram Housing Finance, which is a subsidiary of our company, which has buffers up to December 2020.
Okay, sir. So in Shriram City Union, would you build up more liquidity buffers in terms of your repayments for the next, let's say you might as well take it up to March 2021. So what would be your liquidity policy, treasury policy for the next?
The policy is that we will have about 2,000 crores in as a liquidity buffer.
Okay, sir. And there is no chunky repayments coming up in the next few quarters?
So normally, every quarter end we do have some payment, but that is taken care of. That's planned for.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, sir, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Saurabh Dhole from Trivan Pitch Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sir. Good morning and thank you. Couple of questions. First, if I see the employee count this quarter, there's been a very sharp fall in that. So you were running at about 28,000 half, and now it's at about 26,000. So any reason as to why there has been a sharp decrease?
We've actually rationalizing the manpower. One is normal resignations were there, and we have actually stopped new recruitment and trying to reassign roles. Basically, that's it. It's basically reassigning roles, normal attrition happening.
Okay. So
no new hiring.
Okay, so this no new hiring policy would continue for the foreseeable quarters also. Is that a right assumption?
At least, I would say, at least for 2 more quarters.
Okay. And so the second question was on collateral prices. If you could talk a little bit about how they are holding up, especially in your MSME portfolio, where 80% of the book is collateralized. So, any sense that you can give us there?
Very honestly, as of now, I'm not really worried about the collateral price, which is most of this, our average ticket sizes are about 12 lakhs, right? So the average LTV would be about 55-60% at best. So plus when you're lending, the initial lending was done basing on the cash flow and not on the collateral value. Though you do look at collateral, but it's secondary. So looking at both, I'm really not worried about the collateral prices as of today.
Okay. But in case cash flows get disrupted, collateral is your last resort, right?
So, right. But then you have average LTV is around 55-60%. I think we should be comfortable with that.
Okay, sir. Okay. And so just one last question. I think in the last quarter you said that you made a provision of about 400 odd crores for COVID. So I was just thinking, where in the P&L statement does this figure appear? Because if I look at the total impairment...
it's basically cost of impairment.
It is there in the impact of financial instruments. There are 310 crores. In that, 226 crores right now and 84 crores is provision. The 310 crores includes.
No, so the total figure was 400 something.
Yeah, Saurabh, can you hear me?
Hello, yeah.
Saurabh, I'll send you the details. The breakup I'll send across.
Calculation Jai Singh will give.
Yeah.
It has to be calculated in a different way because the opening provision and the last COVID provisioning plus current COVID provisioning and the closing provisioning. The closing provisioning and the opening provisioning is 84 crores plus write-off is 310 crores. So there's a method of calculation. I think Jay Singh will forward to you.
Okay, sir. No, not an issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Sanket Chheda from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congrats on pretty good set of numbers operationally. My question was that, sir, it has been about more than 1.5 years and still there is no nothing on merger front. So is there any timeline when the merger would go through, and also are there any other options being discussed, that whether it would be a three-way merger as planned earlier or whether it could be a two-way merger or any other options as such?
As of now, there's nothing being discussed at a company level or a board level on the merger side. So probably no, nothing.
So is there a possibility that the merger won't go through, or we would be allowed to remain a separate entity? Any remote possibility, anything on that?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Because I have not heard anything on the merger as of now, so probably it's in the cold storage.
Okay, sir. Sure. That's all from me.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Pawan Ahluwalia from Laburnum Capital. Please go ahead.
Yes, thanks. Just wanted to check on the credit quality situation. So I think you said that you would prefer to avoid restructuring and simply let customers take advantage of the moratorium given that cash flows are normalizing. So just wanted to confirm that we'd understood that correctly. So your view is that as the economy comes back to normal, most of your customers will be able to generate roughly what their normalized cash flows are, and therefore maintain the EMIs that they were maintaining earlier. And the implication of the moratorium is the loan will just run, a few installments longer. So you would prefer to just take that route out rather than do some sort of restructuring, because based on what you're seeing right now, you're quite comfortable that, with even a moderate recovery, your customers are going to be able to meet their EMIs. Is that fair to say?
Exactly, Pawan. You got it right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sir, do you have any further questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Subrat Trivedi from SBI Life. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir, and thanks for taking my question. First, on the collection efficiency front, you mentioned that it has reached 80% in July. So, does that include overdue collections also from previous months, or that was just the scheduled collection for July which has come in?
Overdue collections are about, out of this 80%, overdue collections would be about 3-4%. Rest of it is for the demand for the month.
Okay. Second, on the liquidity front, so although collection efficiencies, etc., have improved, but if we purely look at the cash and undrawn bank lines, then it covers around 2 months of repayment. Whereas normally we have seen that NBFCs keep around 3 to 4 months at least of repayments, because one doesn't know if the collection efficiencies might fall, if future lockdown happens, etc. So what is your sense on maintaining liquidity going ahead?
No, as I said, our liquidity. Sorry, Chandru, please go ahead.
With reference to liquidity, as of today, we have comfortable next 3-4 months of liquidity with us. As I told you, we have more than 2,000 crores of liquidity buffer. Plus, we have quite a bit of on hand.
As of June, we had 1,700, Chandru. So July number.
So we have quite a bit of the next 3-4 months of liquidity buffer we have, because the repayment over the next couple of months is not very high.
Okay. And just one last question from my side. So in terms of raising money from banks, how is that process now? Is it slow, or you are able to raise term loans, etc. easily? And the second part of it is...
Last month we are able to 700 crores, including retail and wholesale money. This in the month of June. I think we are also quite comfortable in getting money of 400-500 crores from the market. Plus we are also having able to do retail. But going forward, I think from September we may be able to do a couple of securitization transactions on our two-wheelers and other things. And we are discussing with 4-5 banks. So I think raising money, we have a plan for raising 1,000 crores of liquidity month on month. I think we will be very comfortable going forward in the liquidity front. I think the liquidity we don't have any issues. But we are only clear that we don't want short-term liquidity. We are clearly focused on long-term liquidity, because we have quite a buffer to manage short-term things. So we want money for disbursement. So we are looking for a long-term money, which only with so we don't have no issues getting have good relationship with the public sector bank, and even private sector banks are now we are discussing with 3 or 4 banks. So I think we don't have problem for next couple of months.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot. That's all from my side.
Thank you. We have next question from the line of Nischint Chawathe from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi. Just a couple of questions, but before that, I didn't get the number. How much did you raise in June? So how much quantum of funds did you raise in the month of June?
We raised 700 crores.
700 crores, and this is from banks, is it?
So banks and retail. In fact, we have both from the banks. Also, we have some retail fixed deposits also, both put together. The inflow of money from if you want to break up, is around 500 crores and around 275 crores, both break up of retail and market banks.
Sure. Now just moving on, if I have to look at the SME credit guarantee scheme, I think what you mentioned was that you're looking at disbursements of around 300-400 crores, and if I have to consider that as 10% of the loan amount, then you're talking about broadly covering around 3,000-4,000 crore loans of customers with around 3,000-4,000 crores of loan outstanding. And the yield, and if my understanding is right, does the yield on the entire book go down to the government kind of whatever, the 14% yield level, or is it only the incremental yield that goes down?
No, it's only the incremental lending that will go down, no? On this 300-400 crores.
Okay. Not the entire 3,000 crores or whatever the split is not.
It's only on the 300-400 crores.
Sure. Now on, if you could give some color in terms of how many branches are operating in the month of June, July, and maybe even early August.
See, to be honest with you, very difficult to pinpoint how many branches, because it's changing from week to week. In fact, on a steady state basis, we have about 18-20 branches which are closed because they are in containment zones and they still not come out. The rest of the areas, in some places, they are open from 8 to 11 in the morning. Some places they are open from 10 to 2. It's like, partial opening, closure. They're open for 1 week, and next week there's some director comes in, you're closed for a week, and then you go and open it again. So on a probably total shutdown in June and July would be about 20 branches.
And August, whatever, last 10 days, similar.
Same. Those branches still remain closed.
Sure. Could you share, you mentioned the collection efficiency percentages, so could you share the absolute amount?
Yes, sure. Chandru, you have the number with you right now?
So if you want in to the month of April, we collected.
Yeah, so you shared percentages for the 3 months, April, May, June. So if you could share the absolute amount and maybe just break up the absolute amount between gold and others.
No, that's what. In the month of April, we collected 560 crores, 30% collection. In the month of May, we collected close to 1,000 crores, it's 52%. And in the month of June, it's 1,400 crores and 71% collection.
Sure. And of this, how much could gold be like? I mean, out of 560 crores, let's say.
Can you repeat it? Out of it, how much?
Of the 560 crores, how much is collected from gold loans?
Gold loans, in fact, will be less. In fact, entire April month, there is no gold because this entire April is national lockdown. There is no branch open. So 100% is from non-gold only in the month of April.
Sure.
In the month of May, there was a gold loan collection, which was around close to around 300 crores. In the month of June, we have around 400 crores of gold loan collections.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Piran Engineer from Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Congrats on the quarter. I have a couple of questions. Firstly, did I hear you right when you said collection efficiency in July is 80%? 80?
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay,
we have
fair enough.
1,550 crores collection.
Okay. And sir, my other two questions are firstly, what percentage of customers haven't paid a single installment since the lockdown? And my second question is, I wanted to gather your thoughts on the recent RBI regulation allowing 90% LTV for gold loans for banks. So, how does this play out in the, say, near to medium term, in the next 12 to 18 months? And when customers move to banks, will they eventually stick to banks or can they come back to players like us? So I just want to get your thoughts around that. Thanks.
Yeah,
Chandru, let me take that question. Probably about between 20 to 22% of my customers have taken the full moratorium. That is, they have not paid a single installment since April. Okay.
Okay.
On the gold loan side, right now RBI is allowing banks to lend up to 90%. So we'll have to see how aggressive banks will be. I mean, with all due respect, I don't think most of the banks have appraisers on their roll where they have a permanent appraiser sitting in the branch, and as and when the customer walks in, they disburse. Most of the banks, you need to inform in advance that you want gold loan, and then they call in a appraiser from outside. The guy comes in, appraises, and then you get the money. So it takes. There are a lot of waiting time there. So we'll have to see how the customers would want that. One, two is I'm not sure how many banks would really be willing to go up to 90%. Looking at the way the gold has shot up, the price of the gold has shot up, and the way it has corrected, it's corrected yesterday. So 90% may optically look very attractive or look like that, but then when it comes to policy, I'm not sure majority of the banks would lend up to 90%. So I'm not really probably worried about banks taking away business as of now.
Okay. And do you think if, say the bottom 5-10% of the customers move to banks, they eventually sort of stick to those banks and don't come back from 1st April 2021? Is that a possibility?
That is a possibility, but then this market is so huge. The market for gold loan is so big and so huge. It's your ability to reach the customer that will determine whether customer is going to bank or to you. It's also accessibility important. Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, that's all from my end. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you, Piran.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A reminder to participants to ask a question, please press star followed by 1 on your touchtone phone now. We have next question from the line of Abhijit Tibrewal from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking my question. So, again, asking on the liquidity side, you raised about 550 crores in Q1 FY21. If I remember correctly, out of this, about 350 crores was from SIDBI. Were the other 200 crores in the form of term loans from banks?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And Chandru sir, have you seen any newer lines of borrowings in the month of July and August? And the idea of asking this is...
Yeah. We have a couple of sanctions from a couple of banks, which we'll be drawing over the next 10-15 days.
Okay. So the idea of asking this is, just trying to understand whether the current liquidity tightness can constrain some of your disbursements in the near term?
No, because we are just waiting for the moratorium, because the moratorium period is over, so we're still on. So, and the two-wheeler business we are already doing, gold we are doing. SME customers we have to assess. We are just waiting because we don't want to be aggressive at this point of time in dispersing. So we are just waiting for this moratorium to get over. Once the moratorium over, I think we will come back to the normal aggressive mode of assessing the customers and then giving. So liquidity is not going to be a constraint for disbursement.
Sure, sir. The second question I had was on your write-offs. The write-offs that you took during the quarter, were they majorly in the personal loan segment?
No. Write-off is basically write-off is not in the personal loan segment. It is in all the products. Basically, we are trying to assess how our business, how much credit loss the business will be there. So it is across all products. It is nothing for personal. It includes all the SME, gold, two-wheeler, every product. So we have a mechanism. There's a board loan, bad debt policy we have. As per the policy, we do the write-off.
Okay. There is no spike in any single product. That's what Chandru is meant to say.
Yeah,
okay.
It's across all.
But your GNPAs, have seen a good correction in personal loans.
No, that is basically because the last 2 quarters we have not done any personal loans, so the book is running down. So the denominator effect is pushing up. But the amount is, in terms of rupees, it is coming down. Because the denominator is going down, the percentage is going up. Once we start doing business from next month, I think once again it will start going down.
So essentially the AUM of personal loans has come down primarily because of the collections that we have demonstrated.
Collections, and also because, as I told you, the AUM also is running down because there is no fresh disbursement for the last 2 quarters. Last 2.5 quarters.
Okay. So the last question that I had was on this ECGL scheme for individual MSME customers. You have already alluded to that, earlier in the call. Just wanted to understand, there is a capping of 14% on these loans under ECLGS. So won't that be dilutive on your yields and NIMs?
Yeah, that's why I told you. I mentioned that at best we will do about 300 to 400 crores.
Okay, and that is primarily...
On a book of 17,000 crores, 300 crore, it will be about 300 to 400 crores.
Okay, all right. And sir, lastly about this MSME restructuring scheme which is there, you have already said that you'll actually want to give more time to the customers rather than restructure the account. So this MSME scheme was already there. It has now been extended till March. Were we already doing some restructuring, or have we not been doing any restructuring?
No, we have not done. We have not done anything.
Sure. So that is very, very helpful, and wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have next question from the line of Pradeep Agrawal from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. A couple of questions from my side. One is, how do you see your margins panning out going forward, especially in a scenario where some of the competition like Cholamandalam have become aggressive in two-wheelers? You have banks coming into gold loan aggressively. So how do you see your margins and yields panning out? And what I understand is, few quarters back we have reduced yields on two-wheelers by about 2 to 3 percentage points. So Sorry, I missed the last part. You said what? Last 2-3 quarters? What I understand is, in the last quarter or so, we have reduced some interest charged on two-wheelers by a couple of percentage points. So how does that stand as of now? Do we still charging lower, or are we back to normal rate of interest in two-wheelers? See, typically that is basically because of the festival season. In a festival season, we normally offer a discount on the interest rate to the customers. So that's what has happened earlier. We're back to normal yields now. So I'm going, every year during the festival season, Navratri and
Diwali time, we offer a little lower rate to the customers, which is normal industry practice. So otherwise, there is no pressure on the yields as of now. So Cholamandalam or somebody getting aggressive doesn't mean they will compromise on yields, because two-wheeler is a highly manpower-intensive business. And you need to protect your yields. If you don't protect, then very easily you'll end up making losses. So that's not a worry.
Okay. And the second question is on collection efficiency, which you mentioned is about 80 odd %. So just want to understand the 20 odd % where we have not collected. Is any particular segment where the skewness is higher? While you have skewness for SME, but disproportionate. Yeah.
SME, so obviously, if you look at it, SME, we are at about roughly less than 60% of efficiency versus rest of the products. SME, we expect it to touch about 70%. It's about 70% in July and probably normalize by end of September.
Okay. And just one data point, the 270 crores which we raised through banks in June, was it at what rate?
Actually, the rates were actually lower. We took it from a couple of banks where we took it from SIDBI at 6.2% and it's a lower rate. All rates and other term loans with around 9%. And we got from SIDBI special scheme with at 6.2%.
Okay. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Ankur Jain from Prayas Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, sir. I have two questions. The first question is on the cost to income ratio, which has dropped significantly from 40% to around 35%. So just wanted to understand how sustainable is this drop? After 2 quarters, can we expect this cost to income ratio to go back?
No, we will be around, probably will be around, once the business starts picking up, then we will have the variable costs coming in.
Okay.
So we should be around 37-38%.
Okay. So that reduction of 2 to 3% from the normal levels, can we say that is happening because of digitization in the amount of
digitization, rationalization of manpower, reduction in some other costs, reduction in rentals.
Okay.
A lot of savings on the promotion expense, traveling, so many heads up.
Right. And the second question I have is on the branch network. So if I look at the company for the almost 7-8 years, we used to have around 980 branches, and over a period of time, the number of branches has come down to 947. So I wanted to understand how dependent is our business growth on the distribution reach, which is the number of branches that we have. When things normalize.
Yeah, got it. So we may. I'll put it this way: we constantly evaluate and rationalize the branch presence. So though I have only today 947 branches, we are operating in close to 1,800, 1,900 locations. So basically, you operate on a hub and spoke model where you have the branch acts as a hub. So wherever we find that there is some other branch which can actually do the same, we can do the same work with that branch, we rationalize and then close that branch. So unless we are moving into a newer geographies, this branch network will not expand. So, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, in Delhi, we used to have about Delhi and NCR. We used to have about 13-14 branches. Today, we have only 9 because we have rationalized those branches and we are using the other branch as a hub.
Okay.
So that's how the calls are taken.
Right. And just last question on this, AUM by geography. So North, contributes less than 10%. So over a medium-term basis, what are the thoughts on diversification and capturing more market share in the North and the Eastern geographies?
The East, though, we have just started slow. We are there in Bihar, about 10-12 branches in Bihar, West Bengal, 7-8 branches. Orissa, we have a few branches. Assam, we probably next month we'll be starting our first branch in Assam. So East, so it will take some time, but North we have enough penetration. Only thing is we need to increase our presence. North, the reason why you see the business, we start, normally when we start our, particularly SME business, when we start in new territories, we start with a small ticket business. That is less than 5 lakhs. Work on it for some time before we move into a larger ticket. So it will happen gradually. See, when you looked at our business probably 5 years back, 5-6 years back, even our two-wheeler business was 70% south and 30% rest of the country. Today it is the reverse. South contributes just 30% in two-wheeler business, whereas west and north contribute 70%. So it will happen, but it will be probably in SME it will be a little, it will be slower than two-wheeler. Because I need people to be trained in this business, and this is something which I don't want to push very aggressively.
Right. Got it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Abhishek Murarka from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Hello. Yeah,
Abhishek.
Good morning. Hi. So my question is on gold loans, and basically the question is, how are you seeing the demand scenario play out? Are you witnessing a sort of withdrawal in, let's say, the jewelry that is kept with you as prices go up? Any sort of trend like that? And are you losing customers to banks because now the incentive gap is even wider? If banks offer higher LTV, even 5-10% higher LTV than before. So how is that impacting demand?
Too early. Too early because this 90% has been announced just 4-5 days back, so it's too early to see how will it impact. But we may have some impact in the urban areas, in the sense, near urban and rural areas. But then, see, the one point here is we have last 2 months. In fact, in the rural and semi-urban, there has been payment redemptions of gold loans. Basically, because I think it's agriculture cash flows have improved.
Okay.
Urban area, it is not so much of withdrawal, but urban area, in fact, the business has improved compared to pre-COVID.
Okay.
But, so as far as banks are posing a threat of increased LTV, it is definitely a factor. But then, as I said earlier, it all depends on how efficiently a bank can turn around a customer who has come in for a loan, for a gold loan. If somebody has to sit in there for a half a day, obviously it's a different incentive.
Even so, of course, LTV is just one of the incremental things that have happened now. But even otherwise, in urban areas, you're saying you're not seeing a sort of attrition of customers to banks or loss of...
No, as of now, no. But then going forward, if the banks aggressively promote the 90% LTV or 85% LTV, probably we may see some attrition. We'll have to wait and watch.
And any early feelers as to what they are doing?
No, I mean, I've talked to a few bankers. They were skeptical of the 90% because they don't want to risk getting caught.
Okay.
On a price fluctuation. In fact, if you see, I think there was close to what, about 5% fluctuation yesterday.
Right.
5% yesterday. Yeah. So that gives you, I mean, if you are a prudent banker, that should give you jitters.
Sure. Sure. Thanks, sir. That was what I wanted to check. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Subramanian Iyer from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. So you mentioned that 22% of customers have taken full moratorium. Is this by value? So that is one question. And second thing is that I'm assuming that this is completely the non-NPA portfolio which has opted for moratorium. And And so based on that, what is your portfolio at risk in your current assessment out of this 22%?
See, this 22% of customers and about 25-26% of AUM under moratorium. Okay?
Got it.
So, portfolio at risk, see, I am not looking at, probably I will be looking at, on an overall portfolio, probably about, we are looking at about 0.9 to, 90 to 100 basis points of credit cost, incremental credit cost.
Okay. Oh, got it. And just to clarify, so this 26% by value, this is completely the piece that was non-NPA, right? I mean, previously. The standard piece. Okay.
Yeah,
Got
but
it.
moratorium for standard.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get it.
Just wanted to cross check, right?
Yeah. And just a follow-up question, if I may ask. This is on your funding. So the funding has been tight for almost 2 years now, and you have not been growing your portfolio as well. Whereas if I see your headline numbers, I mean, both on capital and coverage, you screen pretty solid. So in your conversation with whereas what I see is that many other smaller retail niche NBFCs have actually been growing their balance sheet even in the last 2 years. So in your conversation with bankers and say the capital markets, what is the feedback that you get? Why are they unwilling to give you incremental funding?
No, incremental funding is actually, in fact, last year we have a clear-cut plan that we want to get out of this commercial papers. We want to get into long-term things because every year we get into something or other. So as a management policy, we always felt that we should be having clear-cut liquidity roadmap for the future. One of the liquidity roadmap is that we want to go on procuring only long-term funds and get into more. We plan is around 15-20% to securitization route. The term loans preferably 3 to 5 years, and retail money also 3 to 5 years. So our plan rather than even in this quarter, I think there are some couple of TLTRO money available for 3 months, all these things. So we actually don't want 3 months, 4 months money. We actually looking for 3 years or 4 years money because our book runs for. So it is a strategy which we feel short-term money should not be used for disbursement. So this is so that we always look into the long-term rather than short-term approach to liquidity and business.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Prashant Sridhar from SBI Mutual Funds. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Sir, just on this 80% collection efficiency, I wanted to check if there's any significant difference in any particular state, district, and are you noticing any political interference on this aspect?
No political interference at all. Nothing of that sort. See, significant impact in a particular state? No, nothing is there. Probably month to month there is a difference. For example, in the month of June, when you have lockdown in Chennai and 4 districts, in the last 10 days, there was a slowdown in collection in that area, but which picked up in July. So basically, it is like nothing specific to a specific state.
Sure. And just the other aspect was, securitization is a good proportion of our liabilities. So now, with disbursements slowing down, how do you see that part of the liabilities moving?
Yeah. It's referring to securitization during this moratorium. I think banks may not be much willing. In fact, we have even 1 or 2 sanction orders which we are waiting for the moratorium to get over. But now the banks are actually discussing with us wherever the customers are not taken moratorium for the last 4 months who have paid it regularly, the banks are willing to do. So we may do 1 or 2 transactions in the month of September on two-wheeler front. So going forward, maybe Q3 and Q4, we will do securitization on our SME book. We do only one two-wheeler and SME, but two-wheeler is already the collection has reached 90 plus. So we will start doing from September. As I told you, SME, we will do it from Q3 and Q4. But the market is available. You have to convince the bank, and we have to have a collection efficiency has to reach a reasonable level around 90% for the bank to fund securitization. Otherwise, banks may not be, because banks will be at risk. So we are discussing with the banks, and we are already lined up for 4 or 5 transactions, but we are just waiting for the moratorium to get over.
Great. That's it from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We have next question from the line of Rajiv Mehta from Yes Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning. A few questions. Sir, firstly, July collection efficiency, you said overall aggregate is 80%. And it was just mentioned that two-wheeler it could be around 90 and small enterprise loans it could be around 70. Would that be right?
No. I said less than 60.
Sorry,
July, yes. Yeah. You're right. Sorry.
70, right? Okay. And so this non-paying customers since April, you said about 22% customers have not paid, and that proportion will be much higher in case of small enterprise loans. It could be around 35%.
Yes.
Okay. And in your sorry?
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. And so this non-paying customers, when you engage with them, can you give some color in terms of reasons for them not, having start making payments? Are they more in the affected areas, or their occupation, or their, doesn't allow them, they've not recovered so much so far. And so just wanted to understand from, their occupation color perspective, and also whether what proportion of these non-paying customers would have overdue as on 29th of February.
As on 29th of February, this is, let me take your this thing first. On the occupation side, it is basically schools, small clinics, doctors running small clinics, then travel services, some retail restaurants and eateries. These are the guys who have taken the moratorium.
Okay.
Yeah. And that number, I'll have to get back to you. I will get back to you on that number.
Yeah, because I think the only thing we're worried about is that if the moratorium ending on August 31st, if somebody has an overdue, and you said that the normalization in SCL portfolio in terms of collection can only be reached by November, so intermittently we can have slippages, coming through between September and November if somebody has an overdue.
One more point that I would like to mention here is some of these customers, when we meet them, though they have started the businesses, cash flows are coming in, some of these customers are saying since the moratorium is available, they want to avail of it because they want to shore up their liquidity.
Okay.
So you're not, the thing is, you don't want to, you can't press them also. Since you have given the moratorium and they have availed the moratorium, you just can't press them. Even though they have liquidity, they're saying we'll wait out this period and then we'll pay you once the moratorium is over.
Right. So, yeah, I think those are the questions from my side. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I'd now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Abhijit Tibrewal from ICICI Securities for closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Yes, thanks, Vikram. On behalf of ICICI Securities, I would like to thank the management of Shriram City for giving us this opportunity to host this earnings calls today and for patiently answering all our questions, and to all the investors and analysts for a very enriching discussion. Thank you.